My name is Derick Ofodirinwa. I'm the host of the Medicine Show.
We believe that everyone has a story to share. We believe in the power of storytelling in today's digital economy. Yes, we believe that our audience need to be touched at the level of emotion so we can better engage. What about you? Do you believe in storytelling as much as we do? Do you want to reach the hearts and minds of your audience? Then join us in our online training class, Storytelling for Content Creators and Digital Entrepreneurs. Come, come to obehi1food.com/storytelling and learn how to leverage your storytelling skills so you can earn more as a content creator and digital entrepreneur. Storytelling is a powerful instrument at our disposal. Let's explore it together. See you in the class.
Where I teach and research Igbo spirituality, popularly known as Odinani or Odinani Igbo, if you want to be fancy. I'm also the founder of Gedu.me, which is an Igbo language school that has a very unique approach to teaching language. So, all in all, I am a cultural advocate, maybe. I think that's the term. But yeah.
All right, that's interesting, Derek. Now, we're going to be looking at Igbo language today. First, I want you to help us understand the origin of the language Igbo. Let's understand the origin of the language first.
No, that's a very interesting question, and I like how you started with the hardest possible question somebody can ask. So, the origin of the Igbo language is historically it's still a mystery, right? But in my own work, I have seen some things that point me in one direction or another. So, as far as the Kwa language family, which is a language family that pretty much encompasses Igbo land all the way to what I believe is modern day Ghana. Most of the languages in that area, especially towards the coast, are in the same language family. You're going to hear some of the same similar sounds. You're going to hear a lot of words that sound like each other, so on and so forth. Um, the age of that language family, I think it's very difficult to spot the age of a language family in general. But a lot of those languages start becoming distinguishable from each other. I believe due to the glottal, I can't say the word glottal, glottal chronological record around 6 to 7,000 years ago. Now that doesn't mean that this is when the languages first appeared, right? It doesn't mean that this is when the languages first appeared. It just means that at one point, these languages were so similar that it is hard to distinguish them from dialects of each other. And then around that time, they become so distinct from each other that you can now identify them as individual languages, right? So that tells you that the language itself or the language family is older than that 6,000 year point. And when you're looking at anything historically, once you pass these 6,000 year points, things become a little bit more blurry, especially with something as abstract as language. If it's something concrete like culture or cultural artifacts or human presence, you can trace that a little bit better. But what I do know is that Igbo seems to have a common origin with languages like Yoruba, Ewe, Isan, your own language, Bini, things like that. There's also a relationship with the Bantu languages, and we know that the Bantu migrations date back to, I want to say, close to 90,000 years ago. But there's a relationship there. There's a lot of overlap in words and sounds. What is interesting about Igbo is that between the Kwa language family, which spreads west, and the Bantu language family, which spreads east and south, it seems smack dab in the middle. And if you trace the archaeological records, the oldest artifacts, human artifacts in West Africa, are in an area of Igbo land known as Ugwele, in what is now Abia State. right? That artifact record, or that the artifacts found there, date back to, I want to say, roughly that 9,000 year period where the Bantu migrations would have been happening or starting. And there's an intense density of what looks like hand axes and spears. These hand axes and spears could be presumed to be farming instruments, right? So if the people who created those tools were speakers of the Igbo language, or a language we can identify as Igbo, right? Um, we're looking at a language that is one of the oldest in the world, right? And we're looking at a language family that is one of the oldest in the world, and one that is central to two major movements of human population throughout the world. There's also the mythological accounts, in the Igbo language, of the coming of the language, and a lot of it points back to what is known as Afa, or divination. Afa divination. It is said that the language that the divination beings speak, the Afa language, is the original language, and that what we speak is a casual or a colloquial derivative of what Afa is saying. So all of those are the different theories, or among the theories that are floating in the air.
Thank you very much for that. You see, now we are talking of language, we're already talking of history. And just now you were making mention of divination, we are already in spirituality. I remember what you said the last time, though, that in Africa it is difficult to take one thing and just explain that thing as if it were separate, no? Everything is connected.
Yes.
I like that. Those who listen to that episode and this episode, they can sort of find that easy. You see, recently I started to do some work in Esan culture, language, and history. What I found out, because what we know of Esan, in fact, what he did, what we have of the official record of Esan people, is that they came out of Benin. And they came out of Benin, of course, at the time of one of the Obas of Benin, who had a very stringent rule at the time of money. He broke out a lot of law, so people ran away from Benin. But of course, we are talking of only less than 600, 700 years ago. So, but the point now is that in my research, what I found is that there are archaeological records of up to 3,000 years of history in Esan. Okay, now that become even challenging now to talk about. The person who did the study is in Moscow. I contacted him. I said, "Hey, come on, can we work on this again?" Well, he told me he cannot, because right now he's not working on the project, so he's not ready to speak on that. But that is okay, fine. I'm only trying to point out thing here that from the surface, it appeared that we are just here for only a few hundreds of years. But if we go deep now, we can understand that we have been here for a very long time. A very long time. This language have been forming, migration, people have been moving. It becomes very interesting now. I don't know how you, first of all, look at the historicity of our language to start with. How do you look at that?
Esan is very interesting, and it falls under a lot of the patterns that you see when we tell history at home, right? And then the West suffers from this too. It's great man theory, right? But in our case, it becomes a little bit more of a problem. So, for example, typically people will say, "Oh, our people came from this place. Our people came from this place." When if you trace the story, it's always one specific person that came from that place. You understand? And then they say that once that person reaches, then our people come to that place. Well, who did he marry? Who did he interact with? All these different things. So what I think was that it was likely, and the reason I'm saying this because in a lot of Igbo communities, we have the same thing that happens again and again. It was likely a famous man or a great man that came out of Benin and settled in Isan. And then from there, people then started saying later on down the line, this is the origin of the people. But like you said, if you trace the archaeological record, right, we take away he said, she said, you go to the archaeological record, the age would not make sense, or the age of human settlement in that area would not make sense with this account. So it's very interesting too, because when it comes to Benin, there are several stories of great men being kicked out for one reason or another, or having a fight with the Obehi and leaving. This is a consistent thing you see in that region, a very consistent storytelling in that region. And these stories take place about, like you said, about 600, between 600 years ago to roughly 200 to 300 at the most early, you know? And then again, you go back to those cultures and, of course, they're a lot older than this, right? So I think that there was a period in time, and it's interesting too, because I'm working on a documentary called the Ekumeku Uprising, on the Ekumeku Uprising, right? I'm taking my time with it because I want this to be studio quality. I want to put my all into it. And one of the things I saw, I think I'm revealing this to you first, before anybody else. So you're getting the exclusive. But one of the things I saw
Thanks
that
for that.
no problem, man, no problem.